Hello, good to be back.
What's nice and easy here? What's your favorite thing you do this offseason?
My favorite thing I do every year is just relax. Sit on my couch, watch YouTube videos, play video games. So, my favorite thing to do.
Your go-to YouTube channel we're talking?
No, I wouldn't say go-to. I diversify my mental portfolio on YouTube, I would say.
Did you watch the quarterback thing, Joe?
I did not.
You plan to?
Maybe one day, probably not though.
Why not?
Would you watch a documentary about Hobson?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think you're going to get unanimous yes on that one. Obviously, there's been a lot of conversation about your contract with Justin having this done. Does that maybe create a greater sense of urgency on when you would like it done? Does that affect the timeline at all?
It gets done when it gets done. We'll see.
Does any of that stuff matter to you on what other guys make? Do you keep tabs on any of that stuff?
No, not particularly. I'm focused on getting a deal done that's good for us, good for me, good for the team, good for everybody.
Are you okay? Does it have to be done before the season starts, or are you okay with whenever it gets done?
It gets done when it gets done.
You said you were confident to keep the band together. You're referring to the receivers. Why are you so confident that you'll be able to do that based on your contract?
Well, we'll see. Obviously, that's ideal situation when you keep guys together for a long time. They build rapport and they build chemistry, and that translates onto the field. So that's obviously the goal.
Do you talk with them about staying together? I know players don't necessarily talk about contract stuff with each other, but do you guys at all?
We talk about a lot of different things.
Like the line from Mike Brown was there was this pact of silence kind of between you guys on both sides. Kind of, why is that the best approach for you guys as you privately negotiate this contract?
I think that's the best way to do business. I'll leave it at that.
Joe, do you think one of your strengths is your ability to compartmentalize? I mean, now it's football and you're compartmentalized, your focus is right there.
Yeah, I'm able to hyper focus on a lot of different things at different times, and when it's time for one, I can completely focus on that and forget about everything else.
So you talked to your teammates about the whole contract thing. Did you have any conversations with Justin as he was kind of waiting for one as well?
Did not.
How do you feel knowing that, even though it seems like you've been doing this for a long time, this is your first fully healthy,
Yeah.
training?
Knock on wood. Hopefully, we'll see. Yeah, I feel great. This time last year, I was sitting in a hospital bed a couple days post surgery, so it's good to be out there with the guys. Excited. We know the things that we have to do and the things that we have to change throughout our process to get there, and so those are just more reps, same as reps in practice. We get those reps now. We're going to be better for them.
With the offense, was there any lesson from the last couple drives of last season, the way it ended?
Say that again?
Was there any lesson from the last couple drives last season and kind of the way it ended?
Well, you take things from every play of every game. You learn from the tape and you move on. And that's what we did. We learned from the tape and we moved on, just like you do every week.
Are you a hungrier football player as the years go by, or is it the same every year for you?
I wouldn't say I'm hungrier. I would say I'm, you change as a person, and your mentality changes, but your process changes, but the grind never stops. Maybe your why changes and turns more from motivation to discipline at a certain point, but that's what the great ones can do. Is once it turns to discipline, that's when they really take off.
What's your why?
I just love the game. I would say I love the guys in there. I do it for them. That's my favorite part of the game is being around those guys, and one of the reasons I work so hard is so the people that help get me here can watch me on Sundays and be proud of what I'm doing and be proud of what they did to help me get here.
There were a couple plays in that AFC, I guess in the divisional game, or maybe the AFC Championship game, where when you need a big play, you look at Jamal and T's favor, even in a 50-50 chance, and said they're okay. What's it like having confidence that you've got multiple guys who are doing that when you do need a big play, a big moment, and you can turn to either one of them?
Yeah, that's I mean, that's critical as a quarterback. You have to have guys that you trust to make those plays. It's never going to be, you know, sometimes it's not going to be pretty. There's not always going to be 10 yards of separation, pocket. It's not always going to be perfect, but, you know, when you have guys that you trust and guys that you love to go make those plays, you know, it makes you feel good as a quarterback.
Because you've got multiple years with both of those guys, that how much you kind of quantify that as you go and look at the big picture of things and saying, you know, there's a value in having this relationship this many years as opposed to maybe having to bring new receivers and start from scratch.
Yeah, it just turns into, you know, the conversations that you have turn into shorthand. You don't have to, you know, we've built that dialogue, we've built that trust on the field, and, you know, when something happens, sometimes, you know, you just look at each other and be like, yeah, and you don't really have to say anything. And so when you have that, it just makes things progress so much faster, and you can get better faster than you could before.
What was your reaction to Joe Mixon restructuring his contract?
We love Joe, so I don't really know the specifics of it, but I know that we're a better football team when Joe's here, so I was happy to see that.
Would you like to play in the preseason, Joe?
Yeah, I would. I haven't had a chance to do that yet. I think, you know, a series or two would be beneficial.
How much do you keep in mind the weight of, obviously I don't think anyone that knows you or has covered you would have ever thought that you would potentially not show up for training camp or hold out or anything, but how, with other players that are going into their final year with no security after that, how much do you keep in mind that you being here and you handling the contract negotiation process like you have maybe sets the tone for players that are in a little bit of a different situation like you, but in a similar in that their future after the season is unknown?
Yeah, I think every situation is unique, and every guy is unique. You know, and every position is unique too. I think, you know, personally, I feel in my position, I don't want to waste any of these days that I have to get better. I've wasted enough days the last 2 years with, you know, injuries and appendicitis and COVID the year before that. You know, I don't want to get out of camp wishing that I had, you know, 7 more days that I could have got better. And so that's the reason I'm here. You know, maybe business comes first at some point, but I need these days to be my best.
Is there a certain feeling that when you, once you figure out you're going to feel the team in camp, where you feel like this has, having been around special teams previously now, where you feel like, okay, you get a sense of camp that this could be a team that makes a run, even the cohesiveness, you feel like it's already there, you feel
Felt
like...
it already.
Yeah. What makes you say that after one day?
You feel the speed on the field. You feel the relationships in the locker room. You feel, you know, how far ahead you are from years before. You feel a lot of different things, and you feel it.
You ever seen a fight break out so quickly in camp?
Yeah, you see fights along the way when you play this game long enough,
I
Hobbs.
mean, so
Yeah.
quickly, though. I mean, but so quickly. I mean, it was like, we didn't even, half of us weren't even there yet.
They usually happen pretty quickly because that's when guys aren't very tired. Day one of camp, third rep. Guys aren't tired yet. Everybody's excited to be here. You know, adrenaline's pumping, so that's usually when it happens.
Anyone trash talk you today?
There's a couple trash talking happening on the field, yeah.
Joe's that
No.
When you were talking to Cam after one of the series, you're doing something with your steps. I don't know, was that some trash talk? Was that some technique? What were y'all talking
We were just talking technique, talking through a rep.
Joe's
Favorite
talking
throw?
a lot about you being ahead of the game. You're at level 300 as opposed to level 100 because this is your first full off-season, first full camp. How do you kind of measure that and how excited you are to have that first full experience?
Yeah, it's going to be great for me. I know I'm going to be able to get a lot more out of this training camp than I have the last couple, as long as I stay healthy, which, like I said, knock on wood, you know, nothing's happened yet. But like I said, the more reps that you get at the position, more game speed reps, the better you're going to be when it comes week one. And, you know, I've grinded all off season, and I'm in a great spot physically and mentally, so I'm going to attack this training camp with intensity and, you know, pursuit of perfection, and so that's what I'm excited about.
So you took time after practice today to sign autographs and hang out over by the fans. Why do that after practice? Why spend that time? And what's that like to see those fans, all those fans that came out just to see you on practice today?
Yeah, it's always a little weird because you're just a guy, you know, and so when people react that way, it's always a little weird to me. But you know, when people take the time to talk to me, I think they realize that I'm just a guy, and so whenever I can to give back to people that support me, I try to do that.
You still feel like just a guy 3 years in?
Everybody's just a guy.
It looked like you tried to calm the crowd down a little bit at one point.
Well, there were some grown men pushing some kids to get up front, and that was just, I mean, come on, guys, what are we doing?
Joe, what does it mean to you that your foundation, the Joe Burrow Foundation, at its first annual golf outing, you raised over $1 million for all the communities that you're part of? How proud are you of that fact?
Yeah, that's, you know, we started it. My parents are most involved in that, so I'm happy to do whatever I can to give back. But all that credit goes to my parents.
Is there a part of the offense or a part of the team you're most looking forward to kind of seeing how they look during camp?
Yeah, we got a lot of young players that we're going to count on. A lot of talented young players. And so whenever you can see that improvement and that growth, that's really exciting, especially when they turn that corner. So, you know, I'm excited to see that down the road.
You said you didn't want to do the quarterbacks thing this year, maybe a couple of years down the road. Why? What's a couple of years down the road close to now?
Well, if you guys know anything about me, you know media is not exactly my favorite thing to do. It's a very, the process of doing that show is very intense. You know, there's a lot of time that you have to put into that, time that I'm not ready to give right now.
Intrusive also? You feel it can be intrusive?
Yeah, everybody knows that I'm a very private person, especially in my personal life, and so that's a window into a personal life that I'm not quite ready to share yet.